There are celebrity houses that are so unique they don't even look like houses anymore. It's not about how beautiful or big they are, but about how different they are from the usual. In this video, we'll look at the top 10 coolest celebrity houses that are truly out of the ordinary. But before we continue, please like this video. It really means a lot to us content creators. Thank you very much. Number 10, John Travolta's house with its own airport. Most people dream of living in a place with a beautiful view, but John Travolta has a different dream. What he wants is to be able to park a plane in front of his house. And not just any plane, but a Boeing 707. It took him 8 years to find the right property. You can find it in Ocala, inside a private community called Jumbo Lair Aviation Estates. This place is not ordinary. This is the only community in the U.S. where you can drive a large airplane directly up to your front door. Each house has its own path leading to the runway, which is 7,500 feet long. That's even longer than some airports. It can accommodate even large airplanes like the Boeing 747. And Travolta was one of the very first to live there. In 2001, he built a house that measures 7,000 square feet. But the most unique thing is that his house is right next to the runway. And that's where he parked his 1964 Boeing 707. It came from Qantas, and he had it restored to its original appearance. His planes aren't just for display. He himself is the pilot. He has a license for 11 types of jets, including the Boeing 707, 727, and 737. He also had his own collection of aircraft. Gulfstream jets, Bombardier Challenger, and others. And he personally flies all of them. He has spent thousands of hours flying. He even became an ambassador for Qantas. The coolest part is, from his room to the pilot's seat, it takes less than a minute to walk. It's just like a regular garage, but instead of cars, there's a plane parked there. And his neighbors share the same interests. They're people who also want their own aircraft in front of their houses. But not everything was easy. There was an issue with the homeowners association. He was sued because of the weight of his Boeing 707. According to them, the road might not be able to handle the excessive weight of the airplane. Even though he had been using it for more than 2 decades, they still had to have engineers check if it was really safe. In the end, the restriction was lifted. And in 2024, Travolta joined his neighbors in filing a case against the new owner of the community because of the planned changes that could transform the entire area. But despite everything, his life remains the same. He walks to the plane, flies, then goes home. Simple, but not ordinary. Number 9, Penn Jillette's The Slammer. In 1994, Penn Jillette bought a simple house in the desert for $184,000. At first, it was just ordinary, but he didn't stop there. Over 20 years, he gradually changed the house, made it bigger, renovated it, and almost completely changed its appearance. Until it reached a point where you couldn't categorize it anymore. You couldn't call it modern. It's not classic either. It's not simple. It's like it has its own unique style. From the outside, the house looks like a jail. There's a part with gray walls. On the other side, the colors are all mixed up. There's a wire fence and a driveway for vehicles. It's the kind of place you wouldn't want to go to. The name of this house is the Slammer. It's a term used in the United States. This is what they call a special place in Fort Detrick, where patients with the most dangerous diseases are kept. According to Penn Jillette, he liked the idea that the house feels sealed. It's a place where you can disappear and hide from the world. So what he did was create a house that feels like its own world. It measures 7,900 square feet. When there are visitors, they can't just come in easily. They first need to have their picture taken in front of a wall with a police height chart. It's like they're in a mugshot. In the kitchen, there's a drawing on the floor that looks like a crime scene outline of Teller's body holding a knife, and they didn't remove it. It's like it was really intentional to have it there while the whole house was being built. In the bathroom, it's also unique. The tiles on the floor have words related to the bathroom. It's like Scrabble. The whole office is neon pink. There are other rooms with different floor designs, zebra and leopard print. And this isn't just an ordinary house. It has its own private cinema with 140 seats. There's even a recording studio. And as time went by, even more was added to it. For Penn Jillette, this was fine, but for others it seemed chaotic. In 2015, he left the house. He sold the property to a developer who planned to demolish it and turn it into a residential area. But according to Penn, he wanted to make the demolition of the house part of his movie. And his plan was to bring in a Russian T-90 tank and crash it into the front of the house. He rented a tank from a military museum in Las Vegas. When the tank arrived, it was immediately brought inside the house, but it got stuck. It couldn't move forward. It couldn't reverse either. He was supposed to say, "Why did you bring the tank into my house?" But he didn't get to say it, because the house wasn't damaged anyway. For 22 years, that house lasted even with a tank inside. In the end, it was demolished anyway, but in the normal way. And now there's just an ordinary house there. The old fences and pathways are also gone. Dick Clark is a well-known TV host who created shows like American Bandstand and New Year's Rockin' Eve. He built a house that looks exactly like it came from the cartoon The Flintstones. And it wasn't an accident. It was planned from the very beginning. When he bought a 23-acre piece of land on the edge of Malibu, near the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, there was a problem. The National Park Service did not approve his original plan. Their concern was that building a normal house might ruin the natural look of the area. So what his architect, Philip John Brown, did was come up with a solution. Instead of building an ordinary house, he created a design that looked like a natural rock. It seemed like it was just part of the mountain, a house that looked like it came from ancient times. Because of this, the National Park Service approved the design. After that, the design process began. The result was a house that was simple in size but unique in appearance. It only had one floor. It has one bedroom, 2 bathrooms, and a fireplace. But the most noticeable thing is that there are almost no straight lines. The walls are curved. The windows are not uniform in shape. It's like you're inside a cave, but despite this, it still has all the modern amenities. There are also large windows with views of the sea and the surrounding mountains. Dick Clark used this house as a quiet retreat, and according to reports, he really loved it. However, after he passed away in 2012, the house was sold. The initial price was $3.5 million, but it didn't sell right away. Despite this, it stayed on the market for 2.5 years, and the price was lowered several more times in 2013 and 2014, until it was finally sold for $1.77 million. That's almost half of the original price, and if you think about it, there's a reason why. It only has one bedroom. The kitchen looks like it was just carved out of stone, and there are almost no straight lines in the whole house. According to the architect, this is a work of art. But honestly, if you're a fan of the Flintstones, it really looks like the house of Fred and Wilma. Until now, the house is still there in Malibu. It's standing on the edge of a hill with a 360-degree view, and there you can see that their solution was not to build a typical house, but to build a house that seems like a part of nature. 7. Kim Kardashian's almost empty mansion. In 2014, Kim Kardashian and Kanye West bought a mansion in Hidden Hills for $23 million. In addition, they spent another $20 million for renovation. And they didn't move in right away. It took 4 years before they lived there. When the house was revealed to the public, it became a hot topic. Not because it was full of things, but because it was almost empty. The whole house had almost no color. It was all white, cream, and beige. That's all there was. The walls had no decorations. The hallways were almost empty. 10. In short, it was extremely simple. You won't immediately see the TV in the bedroom. It only comes out from the floor when you need to use it, and then it disappears again afterwards. Even so, it's not just about design. It was done to maintain the clean and clutter-free look of the house. The sink in the bathroom looks like it doesn't have a drain at first glance, but actually there's a small channel that leads water to a hidden hole. And just to perfect it, it took them up to 8 tries before they got the right design. Someone even said the house looks like a minimalist monastery. On the other hand, people online had a different reaction. Someone said it looks like a morgue or a mental hospital, and it seems like a very quiet place with no distractions at all. The house's design was created with Belgian designer Axel Vervoord. While they were working on it, they reportedly had a deep conversation about silence and how important it is in a space. In short, they wanted to make the whole house quiet and simple, not just in appearance, but also in how it feels. In addition, Kanye West is hands-on with every detail. He is involved in almost every decision. And, according to reports, if there's a contractor who doesn't agree with what he wants, he immediately replaces them. The whole house measures 15,000 square feet. It has 8 bedrooms and 10 bathrooms. The kids' rooms still have the same style, simple and beige, but there's one exception. North's room is pink, and that's the most colorful part of the whole house. Despite this, after their separation, Kim Kardashian still lives there. She often posts pictures of the inside of the house, and you can see that she's happy with this setup. 14. Number 6. Drake's YOLO estate. In 2012, Drake bought a mansion for $7.7 million. Afterwards, he named it after one of his songs, YOLO Estate. It means you only live once. And that's what he based everything he did in the house on. In other words, he did everything he wanted, even if it was a bit over the top. For example, there's a huge stone water slide leading to a pool that looks like a cave. There are waterfalls, statues, and a grotto with a bar. There's even a mechanical bull. And yes, there's a stable and a riding area for horses, even though he doesn't actually have a horse. And that's not all, it has many more features. There's a private cinema with 25 seats, a recording studio, a wine cellar with its own tasting room, a basketball court, a tennis court, a sand volleyball court, and 6 fireplaces. And another unique feature, there's a secret entrance to the master bedroom. It just looks like a bookshelf, but when you press the hidden switch, it opens. On the other hand, there's a fan incident that happened in this house. The sign at the entrance that says YOLO Estate was reportedly stolen repeatedly. It disappeared many times over the years. It seems like some people preferred to take it as a souvenir rather than leave it at the gate. Nevertheless, there's another interesting story. When Drake moved in, he made a promise to his neighbors. If his parties ever disturbed them, he would buy their house. And he really did. He bought a property for $3 million and another one for $4.5 million. Because of this, the entire estate grew to 6.7 acres. In the end, the whole place became like his own entertainment complex. And if you add it all up from the original $7.7 million, it reached almost $15 million even before including the renovation. But he didn't stay there for long either. He also sold the entire compound for around $17 million. And he moved to Beverly Hills, where he bought a bigger property worth $75 million that used to be owned by Robbie Williams. Whether the mechanical bull came with him when he moved, no one knows. And as for the horses, they're not a problem anymore, because from the start, he never really had any horses. Number 5. Celine Dion's house has its own water park. Celine Dion didn't just have a pool built, she made her own water park. And this isn't just a simple pool with a slide. Instead, it's really like a resort. There are 2 pools, a lazy river, a footbridge that crosses the river, a huge bucket that suddenly dumps water, water slides, and a swimming area that holds 500,000 gallons of water. In other words, it has everything. It's like you're in a theme park. The reason for this is simple. As a celebrity, it's hard for him to bring his kids to a public theme park. So what he did was bring the theme park to their home. The entire property is on Jupiter Island, and it took more than 2 years to finish. It covers 5.5 acres and has over 400 feet of private access to the ocean. In addition, it was built as a private family resort. It's a place where the family can gather together, away from cameras, with a tennis house and plenty of space to relax. But despite this, the neighbors were not pleased. Jupiter Island is a narrow place where only a limited number of families live, and running a large water park requires a lot of water. According to reports, the property used up to 6.5 million gallons of water per year. Because of this, there was a problem with the water supply in the entire area. The estate was even fined. Nevertheless, he came up with a solution. He had 6 private wells built on the property, so they wouldn't have to take water from the island's shared supply. After the water issue was resolved, the water park continued its operations, but eventually the property was sold for $72.5 million. Despite this, it wasn't sold right away, so the price was lowered until it was finally sold for around $38.5 million. The new owner didn't just get a house, but an entire private resort. There's a tennis house with a golf simulator, a pool house with a kitchen, and a beach house with a massage room and sleeping area. And, of course, a fully working water park with 500,000 gallons of water. It's on an island that's still being developed up to now. Number 4, Kanye West's concrete house in Malibu. In 2021, Kanye West bought a house in Malibu for $57 million. This house was designed by the famous Japanese architect Tadao Ando. He is one of the few architects who have won the Pritzker Prize, one of the highest honors in architecture. Ando is known for his use of concrete, natural light, and simple designs that are quiet but have a deep impact. In other words, the house is intentionally designed to look calm and clean, as if it's connected to its surroundings. But when it came to Kanye, the plan changed. He wanted to make the house look like a bomb shelter, and not just any bomb shelter, but with a style reminiscent of the 1910 era. So he immediately had it renovated. He hired a contractor and started the renovations. In just 6 weeks, they removed the large windows facing the sea, took out the kitchen, removed the marble bathrooms, and even the concrete hot tub. In short, the inside of the house was almost completely gutted. While the renovation was ongoing, the electricity was cut off. The water was also cut off. This house, which was completed in 2013, is one of Tadao Ando's best designs in the U.S. But despite this, it slowly came back to life. The reduction continued until it seemed like it was made entirely of concrete. 3 floors, all concrete, and one side is open facing the sea. According to the contractor, Tony Saxon, it's funny, but it feels like I ruined a masterpiece. In addition, he filed a lawsuit against Kanye. He complained that he had a back injury and was not paid properly. He asked for $1.7 million, but the court only awarded $140,000. On the other hand, there was also a problem with the cement. The construction was stopped because there was allegedly no permit. And not just once, but 3 times, he was issued stop work orders. In the end, Kanye West left the property in late 2023. Afterwards, he tried to sell it for $53 million, but it wasn't easy. There were no windows, no kitchen, no water, and no electricity, so it was hard to sell. Despite this, it was still sold in 2024 for $21 million. This means he lost more than $36 million. Ando's original team even said that they wanted to restore the house to bring back its original design. But for now, because of the wind and salt from the sea, the appearance of the cement has changed. And if you look at it, it seems to be exactly what Kanye West wanted, a simple concrete bunker. If that was really his plan, we're not sure either. Number 3, Johnny Depp's own village in France. Depp didn't just buy a house in the south of France. He bought an entire village. In 2001, at the height of his fame from Pirates of the Caribbean, he bought an old village that had long been uninhabited. The place is called Le Plan de la Tour, about 17 miles from Saint-Tropez. It has 12 buildings within 37 acres. All of them are made of stone from the 1800s, but they were already dilapidated and unused. But instead of abandoning them, he restored them. He spent over $10 million to restore the entire place. And he didn't hire a designer or architect. He designed the interiors himself. And that's where everything became more interesting. He gave the wine cave a theme like Pirates of the Caribbean. In other words, he made every part of the village personal. The once quiet place became a private compound. The main house has 5 bedrooms. There are 6 guest houses that were made from the old buildings. This includes a chapel that he turned into a guest room. On top of that, it has many more features. There's a private restaurant called Chez Marceline. The setup is like a real bistro. There's a laundry area. There's a pirate-themed wine cave. And there's a skate park with a half pipe for his son Jack. There are 2 swimming pools. There's a gym. And there's a covered wagon that was converted to include a kitchen and its own bathroom. For 15 years, he continued to renovate and use it, together with his partner, Vanessa Paradis. And because he owns the entire village, he doesn't have any neighbors to ask permission from. In other words, he's free to do whatever he wants with the place. And that's where you see that it's really something else when your home is an entire village. In 2015, Johnny Depp tried to sell the entire property. First, he put it up for $26 million. After that, it went up to $55 million. And eventually, it even reached $75 million. The price changes depending on who is selling. But despite this, more than 10 years have passed. It still hasn't been sold. And if you think about it, there is a reason. There aren't that many people who would buy an old French village from the 1800s with a wine cave and a skate park. In other words, it takes a very specific kind of buyer. Even so, everyone who sees it says the same thing. It's really unique and impressive. And the covered wagon that was turned into a kitchen and bathroom is still there. It's still not clear why. It's like the whole place is just waiting for someone with enough money and an open mind to accept this kind of property. Number 2, 50 Cent's mansion in Connecticut. This house is located in Farmington. But before it ended up with 50 Cent, it already had a long history. It was built in 1985 by a businessman named Benjamin. He used money from investors. But eventually, it was discovered that this was part of a large Ponzi scheme. In other words, the source of the funds was illegal. The house cost $2.3 million to build, and it measures over 50,000 square feet on 17 acres. And this is not just a simple mansion. It has 21 bedrooms and 25 bathrooms. There are indoor and outdoor pools, an NBA-sized basketball court, recording studio, shooting range, and gym. And there are many more game rooms with a pool table, poker table, and roulette. But because of the case, the original owner was imprisoned. The property ended up with different owners, from creditors to a businessman to a bank, until it ended up with Mike Tyson. In 1996, Tyson bought the house for $3 million. This was just a few months after his fight with Peter McNally, where he earned $25 million in just an 89-second match. In addition, he renovated the house. He built a nightclub called Club TKO. There was a pink-themed room and a large black and gold bed. But despite all this, he went bankrupt in 2003 with debts of over $23 million. The house went to his ex-wife, Monica Turner, and it was also sold in the same year. The next person to buy it was 50 Cent. At that time, his album Get Rich or Die Trying had just been released and sold 12 million copies worldwide. He bought the mansion for $4.1 million, and it became the most expensive house sold in the area at that time. In 2005, that's where he recorded his album The Massacre, which sold 7 million copies. And in that same year, he showed the house on MTV Cribs, which became one of the most watched episodes. In short, this mansion became iconic. But there's a twist. According to reports, some of the cars shown in the garage weren't really his. They were just borrowed for the shoot. And what's even crazier is that it reportedly costs more to maintain the house than to buy it. The expenses for staff, electricity, and maintenance reach $65 million per month. Yes, the costs are really no joke. So in 2007, 50 Cent decided to sell the house. His initial price was $18.5 million, but despite this, no one bought it. So he lowered the price. Then in 2019, it was sold for $2.9 million. He lost a lot, about $7.2 million from what he paid. The buyer was a businessman from Florida named Casey Asker. He turned it into a family retreat for his wife and their 7 children. In addition to that, he spent over $3 million for renovations, added a cigar lounge, and fixed the pool systems. But eventually he also tried to sell it. Until now, it's still listed at $9.9 million and hasn't been sold yet. In short, the history of this house is like a movie. Number 1, Mike Tyson's mansion in Ohio. In 1989, Mike Tyson bought a mansion in Southington for $300,000, and at that price, it was really cheap. But there was a reason for that. The former owner, a government official, used public funds to build the house. He got caught and the property was foreclosed. That's how it ended up at auction, and that's where Tyson got it. At that time, he was only 23 years old and already a world champion. He was earning more from a single fight than most people make in their entire lifetime. That's why he needed a place close to training, and this property was perfect for him. It measured over 13,000 square feet on 50 acres. And the most unique thing was that he bought 3 Bengal tigers, each costing $70,000. And eventually, he added one more. He took care of them in the yard in a separate enclosure. Simply put, they weren't just for display, they were really a part of his life. And according to interviews, his love for these animals was on another level, more personal, more genuine. But despite this, the authorities stopped him. He was no longer allowed to take care of tigers, and because of that, he was forced to leave. Aside from this, the inside of the house is extremely luxurious. There are gold details in different parts. Some rooms have zebra print carpets. Others have tiger print. There are tigers, and the swimming pool has an unusual shape. It was made to look like a boxing glove. In short, every detail reflects who Mike Tyson is. And here you can see that when you have too much wealth and freedom, the most unique ideas come out. Mike Tyson's house isn't just big. The pool room alone measures 10,000 square feet. There's a jacuzzi, and according to others, it even has its own ice cream bar. There's a full-size basketball court with bleachers, as if there's an audience watching the game. There's also a nightclub inside. There's a special room for the championship belts, all displayed around the fireplace. Even the entrance gate has his name on it. He lived here at the peak of his career while preparing for his fights. But in 1992, he was imprisoned. He couldn't get out for 3 years. When he returned, the mansion was still there and his career bounced back too. But the expenses kept piling up until his debt reached $23 million. In 2003, he filed for bankruptcy. And he was forced to sell the mansion for $1.3 million. In other words, his tigers were even more expensive than the price of the house. But the story didn't end there. The property went to other owners, including a businessman who was also caught later on, until it ended up with Ron Hemmelgarn. And in 2014, he donated the mansion to a church. That's when everything changed. The pool room was turned into a worship area. The bedrooms were turned into classrooms. The garage was turned into a nursery. And the former tiger cage was turned into a space for the community. If you think about it, it's a mansion that started with dirty money, ended up with a world champion, and in the end, became a church.